It's part 4 of our conversation with Andy Curran. I'm John Beaudin from Rock History Canada. There's some great re-releases and new releases from Coney Hatch and Andy Curran as a solo artist. His Caramel project from 1998 is now available digitally. Leisure World from 2002 as well, and his self-titled album. That was from 1991. A lot of you probably know he was the A&R person for Anthem Records, and he worked with Rush quite a bit, and a lot of other bands. And Coney Hatch have just released Live at the El Macombo. Here's Andy Curran.
So incredibly impressed by how the guys and the surrounding people, the Neil Peart people, were able to keep that on the down low. And I mean, it just goes to show, I mean, all the comments on his passing.
Yeah.
It's all one thing after another of his talent, going from his talent to the man he was, to his private life, and how private he was, and people let him be private. But all the comments were, and it's the internet, man. We all know how people can be.
Absolutely.
Even if you're Neil Peart, there's always malcontent people everywhere.
Yeah.
But that was the classiest thing I've ever seen. The fact that it never got out. No one knew.
No. Yeah, it's it's still kind of tough to talk about that because I definitely want to be respectful because there was a lot of stuff. Neil was such a private guy that he didn't want people to know, and I think that was one of his ways that of dealing with his illness was just to not try to make it a huge. He wanted to do it privately, and he was such a private guy. He spent a lot of time backstage. He really didn't like to be at the meet and greets and things like that. And everybody, the word that I'm searching for here, that is, everybody respected that. Everybody respected that. That's what Neil's wishes were when the band was touring. If he chose to not be as public as the other guys for various reasons, and he was a very private guy, and you have to respect that. It's exactly what I said about Kim Mitchell. If he wants to make that record at that time, he's earned that. So you respect it. And when the inner Rush camp learnt of Neil's sickness, it certainly came as a real shock to everybody, and obviously extremely sad, based on the fact of how much loss he had already had in his life leading up to that. And I think that respect, and you're talking about a huge road crew of maybe 50 guys that eventually learned about it that never made it public. And I think it's a testament to how much everybody loved Neil and how much everybody respected the fact that he wanted that news private. I will say, on a personal note, for me, finding out about his illness was one thing, but when the world found out about it, and it was punctuated by all the stories and everything, and the outpouring of love, that made it so much more real and so much more hard to actually come to terms with it. And he was so cool with me, and such a great guy. So I have some amazing memories of working with Neil.
Ballad of Ted, is that based on anybody?
100% about 100% about Mr. Ted Nugent. And the Ballad of Ted, I ended up meeting Ted, and it's a very long story, but he ended up being on Michael Landsberg's Off the Record, and I helped put the pieces together to associate them and get Ted on. And they said, "Oh, Curran, you got to go meet him." And I brought my book, God, Guns, and Money, and he signed it and everything. So I've been a big Ted Nugent fan for a long time. And as anybody that knows about Ted knows, that most of the time his mouth gets him in trouble, and I don't really listen to that Ted Nugent, his political stuff. I just listen to Ted's music, and I used to love him. So I thought it would be funny on a lyrical and to kind of poke fun at him a little bit. And the premise of it is that Ted mistakenly took my dog as a hog and shot it. And so it's Ted Nugent shot my dog, thought it was it's all about hunting and everything. And so we used samples of Ted's music in there, mostly about Ted screaming at the audience or talking about the Motor City Madman and all that kind of stuff. No music, just Ted speaking. I sent it to his management and said, we would like to clear these samples for the use. And they actually said no. So So it was funny. I don't know whether maybe Ted didn't like the fact that I was poking that he shot my dog in this funny way, but I love Nugent, and we just had a little bit of fun with that song.
Monkey bars.
I have a funny story, but I'm going to answer that question, but I have a funny story to tell you. So the Coney Hatch were doing a gig, and I think a lot of times we would play in the club days. We were doing a gig, and you didn't have a restroom back in your dressing room, so you would go out and you would go to the restroom in the club. And so I'm in there taking a leak, and this guy's beside me, and he looks at me, he goes, "Oh, hey, you're the talk singer in Coney Hatch." Now, he literally said that to me. "You're the talk singer." And because Carl was the flowing melodies, and I was the talk singer, and I was like, I never really thought of that. But and a few friends of mine said, on the song "Stand Up," they're like, "Curran, you were ahead of your time, man. You were actually rapping in that song." And I never really thought of it, but the delivery, and I think I don't know if you feel the same way on this, John, but the delivery of Alice Cooper and also Mick Jagger, sometimes they don't sing, they just kind of talk things. And I thought that was an interesting approach to pick when I wanted to be melodic, but other times I could just maybe talk it or frenetically say something. And the last thing I'll say about the talk singing part of me is one of my biggest influences is Steven Tyler. And I read an article where Steven Tyler of Aerosmith said, it doesn't matter what your lyrics are. Yes, you can write a lot of great stuff and have deep, meaningful lyrics, but it's the cadence of it, it's how it comes off your tongue. It's how it fits with the bass and drums and guitar. So lyricists out there, don't get caught up, because a lot of my lyrics don't even mean anything. They just sound good coming off the tongue. So I kind of took that with me. And I think I've tried to be a bit more of a singer in terms of the evolution of my songwriting. But if you listen to "I'm Dead" on the Leisure World record, I'm pretty much talking through 90% of that song.
We'll have more from Andy Curran coming up in the next few days. Make sure you comment on our videos, subscribe to our channel, and share our videos. I'm John Beaudin. This is Rock History Canada.